So while we are waiting for other participants, I'd like to welcome everybody to this exciting collaborating session, Better Together, Improving Access to the Global Scholarly Record. So this is the second of the joint webinar series co-organized by DataCite, Crossref and ORCID. So we are really excited together to bring you to this session. And so please, don't miss out to our next webinar. So the nearest one is September 29th, and working with multiple, wait. Okay, so the nearest webinar, September 29th, working with multiple PID leads by DataCite, and the final one, November 1st, 6 a.m. UTC. So the topic PIDs and open science led by ORCID. So welcome everyone. While we are getting started, so feel free to introduce yourself on the Zoom chat where you are from, because we are from all over the world. So let's introduce yourself. As you notice when you entered to the room, the session is being recorded and shared publicly on our YouTube channels, and we'll also share the slides. So don't worry, so you will not miss anything, and you can play the recording again at your time. Also, it will be benefit for people who cannot join us today. If you come up with the questions throughout the session, so please use the Q&A tool. We will answer all the questions at the end of the session. So we will also answer the question that you asked during registration. All right, everyone. I think everyone is here, so let's get started. I'd like to start with some introduction. So I'm Robika Rosalin, member support specialist at Crossref. So I usually help with onboarding Crossref memberships. So I'm delighted to welcome you. So I'm joined here by my colleague, Johansson Obanda, as the Community Engagement Manager, and Evans Anthony as the Technical Support Specialist. We are part of the member and community outreach team. And our beloved speakers here, Arifa Gani Rahman, the Executive Editor, Crossing and Associate Professor, Department of English and Humanities from University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh, and Muhammad Mustafa from DataCite. He is as regional engagement specialist for the Middle East and Asia. And from ORCID, Estelle Chang, support and engage with ORCID direct members, publishers, and services and vendors. And Lombe Tembo, responsible for improving equity of participants in ORCID in currently underrepresented areas, especially for the global south. So we are here from different organizations, but we have the same goals for our global equitable participation and access programs, and how our organization work together for the benefits of the scholarly community. So we work together, provide a foundational and open infrastructure that is integral to the global research ecosystem. So we offer unique persistent identifiers, or we call it PIDs, Crossref and DataCite POIs for research outputs, and ORCID IDs for people. So alongside collecting comprehensive open metadata that is non-proprietary proprietary, accessible, interoperable, and available across borders, disciplines, and time. So we have Susan Collin as our first speaker from Crossref. So, but unfortunately, she cannot join live. So we have a recording session for her presentation. Susan Collin works closely with our global community of small publisher members, focusing on the tools and resources that address their specific needs. She also manages the sponsor program, which aims to make membership benefits available to smaller organizations who are unable to join directly due to financial, administrative, or technical barrier. So Susan also worked closely with colleagues at Public Knowledge Project, or we call it PKP, on the development on JS or Crossref Collaboratives project. So Susan will be talking about removing barriers to Crossref membership. So let's start to hear from Susan.
Global community focusing on ways to help make Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Susan Collins. I'm a community engagement manager with Crossref, and I work closely with our global community, focusing on ways to help make membership benefits available to smaller organizations. So as part of today's discussion, presenting different solutions that enable organizations from across the world to participate in the global record of scholarly metadata, I'm going to review our strategies for removing some of the barriers that organizations face to joining Crossref. And I'm going to start by taking a quick look at our mission statement. Crossref makes research outputs easy to find, cite, link, assess, and reuse. We are a not-for-profit membership organization that exists to make scholarly communications better. Now, it's as simple and as complicated as that. So I'm going to take a quick look at a Crossref overview of who we are and what we do. So Crossref was founded in 2000 by a few scientific societies and publishers who were based mostly in the US and Western Europe, who were seeking an efficient way to link references in their journal articles. So prior to Crossref, publishers had to sign bilateral agreements with each other, which is not efficient or very scalable. So they looked for a new way to achieve this. And the solution was to use digital object identifiers, or DOIs. So 23 years later, membership has evolved and now comprises just 35% of commercial publishers, with the largest group, or 40%, self-identifying as research institutions and universities, and a lot of these only have 1 or 2 publications. The other 25% is made up of a combination of funders, museums, repositories, government organizations, conference providers, individual scholars. And so for this reason, we've moved away from using the word publisher to focus on the word member, as many of our members do not self-associate as publishers, as publishing isn't their primary function. We are also a POSI, which is Principle of Open Scholarly Infrastructure compliant membership organization. And through that, we focus on community governance, transparent operations, open code, and organizational resilience. And membership is open to organizations that produce research outputs. And we currently have about 18,000 from about 150 different countries. Crossref ourselves, we are very small. We only have 46 staff across 7 time zones based in 9 different countries. We facilitate an average of about 1 billion DOI resolutions per month. And a resolution is anytime somebody clicks on a DOI link. Our APIs see over 1 billion queries of our metadata every month. And we also work with third-party service providers and metadata users who don't contribute directly to our metadata store, but make use of it via our APIs and our search interfaces for a variety of different purposes. And all of our metadata is openly available. So to date, our members have registered over 148 million registered records across all content types. And all of these items contain a range of metadata, which will vary based on the content type. However, regardless of the type of content, the richer and more comprehensive the metadata is, the more value there is to our members and to the community. And this metadata forms the basis for what we call the research nexus. So the research nexus is a rich and reusable open network of relationships which connects research organizations, people, things, actions. It's a scholarly record that the community can build on for the benefit of society. Now, the value of Crossref doesn't just come from the DOI or from the metadata, but how the links and relationships in that metadata capture the connections between authors, funding, funders, research institutions, publications, and other research outputs. So at Crossref, we make our metadata, plus the connections and the relationships, visible and trackable through open metadata and APIs. However, as we move toward realizing this vision of a connected research nexus, so building a network for the global community must include input from all of the global community. And if we look at where our members are coming from, we can see that there are gaps. So when Crossref began 23 years ago, our first members were mainly from the United States and Western Europe. But today, our membership is much more global and diverse. Membership has grown to more than 18,000 organizations all around the world. However, we are not seeing significant membership growth in all regions. In the last several years, almost half of our members came from Southeastern Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, with some of the highest numbers from Indonesia, Brazil, Turkey, Colombia, South Korea. However, there is much slower growth in other regions, most notably Northern and Sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Central Asia, with only about 5% of new member applications coming from these regions collectively. But we know that there are organizations in these areas that are contributing to the scholarly research record. Let's now look at some of the possible barriers for why not every organization that wishes to become a member is able to do so. So over the years, we've heard from various communities about the challenges that they face. And though the reasons may differ by region, they are generally a combination of financial, language, and technical barriers. Not surprisingly, financial issues are probably one of the biggest barriers. So at Crossref, members pay an annual fee, which starts at $275 per year, as well as fees for content that they register with us. Now those will be based on the type of content and the publication date. Now for some, these amounts aren't too costly and they're manageable. However, for some organizations, that might not be the case. Secondly, there are language barriers. As I mentioned, we have members from close to 150 countries, and that's a lot of languages. And unfortunately, we aren't able to provide support in all of them. And for organizations that need additional support, they may struggle to access the needed resources in order to succeed. So third, some organizations lack the technical skills to know how to register metadata or to do so efficiently. And often they may not have the resources to gather additional metadata beyond the basics. And this can impact discoverability of content and inclusion in the wider scholarly record. So to attempt to address and reduce some of these barriers, we've developed several programs to help facilitate membership. And these include our Global Equitable Membership, or GEM program, which offers relief from membership and content registration fees for members in the least economically advantaged countries in the world. Second is our sponsor program. Sponsors are organizations that provide publishing and support services to smaller organizations that might be unable to join directly because of one or more of the barriers I just mentioned. And then finally, our collaboration with the Public Knowledge Project. So many members use the Open Journal System, or OJS publishing platform, which PKP produces. And we've been partnering with PKP to develop solutions for OJS users to more easily register metadata. And I'm going to look at these three programs in more detail. So starting with our GEM program. In the past, we had a limited fee assistance program to waive the content registration fees for members working under specific partner arrangements, but these programs were limited in scope. So learning from the experiences of these partnerships, we expanded the program to provide greater membership equitability and accessibility to organizations located in the least economically advantaged countries. So this new program now encompasses the annual fee as well as the content registration fees. So eligibility for the program is based on a member's country, and our list of countries is predominantly based on the International Development Association, or IDA list, which uses World Bank income classifications and also applies a more granular blend of criteria for economic help, such as GNI per capita and creditworthiness. So the list will undergo an annual review. Countries might be added or removed over time as economic situations change. And the program started in January 2023, this past January. And organizations based in countries listed in our GEM program will be eligible to join Crossref and contribute their metadata to the scholarly record at no cost. This is a list of the GEM eligible countries in the Asia Pacific region, and next to each is the number of members we have in each of those countries. Now, some have quite a few, Bangladesh and Nepal, and then others don't have any that have joined yet. And so we've been focusing our outreach activities, such as webinars, and working in conjunction with our regional ambassadors to help organizations in these regions learn more about the benefits of the GEM program. So GEM covers the annual member fee and the content registration fees for all content types. However, it does not cover our similarity check program or our Metadata Plus program. GEM eligible members are able to add these additional services to their accounts. However, there is a fee associated with them. So similarity check is a service we run in partnership with Turnitin. Members pay an annual administrative fee as well as document checking fees. For our Metadata Plus service, which offers combined machine access to all available metadata in XML and JSON formats with some additional features. And there is a fee involved with that. But for most members, our free APIs are sufficient for metadata queries. So our second program is our sponsor program. So sponsors are organizations that are generally not primary publishers themselves, but they work with or publish on behalf of groups of smaller organizations that want to join Crossref, but otherwise face barriers to do so independently. So sponsors work directly with Crossref in order to provide billing, technical, and if applicable, language support to their sponsored members. So sponsored members may fit a specific criteria, like being based in a specific geographic area or speak a specific language, or they might be part of an institution like a national library. But by focusing on specific criteria, this helps to increase coverage and adoption and support in that area. So sponsors provide technical support in the member's local language, and then they can liaise with our support team when needed. There are also financial benefits of working through a sponsor. So each organization doesn't have to join independently. A sponsor will pay one annual fee that covers all of the organizations that they sponsor. And then we invoice the sponsor directly for all of the content registration fees for all of their members. And the members can pay the sponsor in their local currency rather than having to pay Crossref directly. The program has grown considerably since it started. The program really began to take shape in 2012 with 4 sponsors working with about close to 100 members, and these are primarily in South Korea and in Turkey. And then by 2014, it had grown to almost 20 sponsors and close to 1,300 members, primarily in Brazil, India, South Korea, Turkey, and Ukraine. So now we have over 150 sponsors from 52 countries, representing almost 12,000 members from about 111 countries. However, there are still regions where we lack sponsors, and we're working with members, ambassadors, and the community to help identify organizations that may fit with our sponsor program in those regions. Now, some of you here today might be Crossref members through a sponsor or might be direct members, but for anyone wanting to join independently or that isn't a member at all, we can talk a little bit about how to get started. So the link for our membership application is on the slide. You can go there to submit an application, and the form will ask you the name of your organization's website and physical address, and then some contact information for a primary contact, a billing contact, and a technical metadata contact. And there's also confirmation that you've read the summary of your obligations as a member. Now, if you're in a GEM eligible country, we will, once we approve your application, we will send you your credentials. There's no invoice to pay. If you're not in a GEM country, We will, after reviewing your application, send you a prorated invoice for the remainder of the calendar year. And once we've received payment, then we send you your credentials and you can get started registering content. Now, if you wish to work through a sponsor, you can take a look at the list of sponsors through the link on the slide. And then if you see a sponsor that you might be interested in working with, you can reach out to them directly to learn more about how to work through them. Some sponsors will charge a fee for their services. So we ask you to contact them directly to find out how they could best work with you. Our third program that I mentioned is our collaboration with Public Knowledge Project, and they are the developers of the Open Journal System, or OJS, publishing software. So with over 34,000 journals and millions of items published using OJS software, it's one of the most widely used publishing platforms. And this map gives an idea of the number of journals in each region that use OJS. The countries with the largest uptake include Indonesia, Brazil, Ukraine, Spain, US, India, Colombia. And these are regions where we are also seeing an increase in organizations joining Crossref. Because so many organizations use OJS, several years ago, Crossref and PKP began a collaboration to create a less technical method for OJS users to register metadata with us and to help publishers and journals take advantage of Crossref services. So we started with a DOI XML export plugin that sent basic metadata directly to Crossref from OJS. Later, several additional plugins were created for other metadata in Crossref services, including reference linking, cited by, similarity check, and the funder registry. And these allowed for an increase in the amount of metadata that was sent to us and could ultimately be included in the scholarly record. So PKP and Crossref continue to work together to improve the level of overall support within OJS, and to also create new plugins to increase the metadata that can be sent to Crossref. So we know there isn't one solution to overcome all of these barriers, and what works in one region might not work for another, or might not even be applicable. So these barriers are very general and they don't apply to all communities. And the programs we've developed are just a start. We can't make assumptions about what a community needs. We need to work with these communities to learn what challenges they face, what resources they need, and how we can best support them. So the programs I've mentioned were created in collaboration with the different communities that we work with, but they're really a starting point. And we continue to seek additional input and feedback to help all organizations be able to contribute equally to our vision of the research nexus. So for more information, I've put links to some of the different programs that I've mentioned, the GEM program, the sponsor program, and then the Crossref manual specific to OJS. If you would like to also submit questions, you can try our community forum. We have sections for our different services, for general information, and for technical support. So in conclusion, I would just like to thank you all for joining us today. And I hope that some of these solutions can help you join Crossref and to contribute to the global scholarly record.
All right, thank you, Susan. So yeah, as Susan mentioned, that to improve membership accessibility, so we have a program. So one of them is GEM. So for many years, we have also waived the content registration fees via specific sponsor agreement for members in some countries, and accounted for that as donated deposits under fee assistance program. Starting in January 2023, it was expanded to be consistent across the world and to encompasses the annual membership fee. So if you have any questions related to the GEM program or sponsor programs, or about OJS plugin development, you can ask to our tools Q&A session in Q&A. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to our next speaker, Arifa Ghani Rahman. So she will be sharing her experience as a GEM member.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm just going to share my screen first. Thank you. Thank you to Crossref for inviting us to be on this platform. My name is Arifa Ghani Rahman. I'm the executive editor of Crossings, a journal of English Studies, and also the head and the associate professor at the Department of English and Humanities at the University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh, ULAB. So I'd like to start first with an introduction to the university, and then I'll go on to a description of our department and what we're doing to be a part of a scholarly community with our journal Crossings, and how Crossref has played a part in helping us get us on the global platform. So ULAB is actually one of the first liberal arts universities in Bangladesh, established in 2004. It is a nonprofit institution. We've been recently ranked by Times Higher Education Impact Ranking and by World Universities with Real Impact in various categories. The curriculum that we have combines the core discipline and options to study a variety of subjects, which makes the liberal arts philosophy, which brings liberal arts philosophy into function here. We are guided by a few principles, and I just want to highlight the principle that it was built on the foundation of research, and ULAB does a lot to support cross-disciplinary inquiry, so that students and faculty members have an opportunity to be a part of talking about education and public policies. We have 7 undergraduate programs and 4 graduate programs with 11 research centers, and I'm not going to go into all the details of these at the moment because I'm short on time. But these are some of the research centers that we have as part of the research culture at the university. Focusing now on our department, the Department of English and Humanities, we have 2 programs, the BA in English and the MA in English program, which offer concentrations and tracks in different different tracks. It is these the students of this department who are a part of these programs participate in a lot of the activities in the department, which also nurture the cultural, the research culture of the university and the department. So to highlight those initiatives, I have a list here of some of the signature programs of the department. The curriculum integration program, which helps the students to connect the course contents with real world issues and topics. We have the Scholars Program, which nurtures the more advanced students and help them to become a part of the research culture again. The English Zone, or what is the Writing Center of the university, that helps the weaker students with their language skills. We have in the department a student magazine called Muse, which is mouthpiece of ULAB Students of English. It is a student-run magazine overseen by a faculty member. They curate the articles, they write for the magazine, they edit it, and then they produce it. Right now, it's an online magazine, so that we have wider reach. So it's very encouraging for the students to participate in this. We also have another signature program, one of the first and I believe the only platform for student research, the Inter-University Student Conference, where students from all over Bangladesh are given this academic platform. And it is a competitive platform as well, because it is a competition where prize money and certificates are given. So it has gained quite a bit of popularity and amongst Bangladeshi universities. We have the next conference coming up. It's the 9th year of this conference that we have run. So we have our next conference this October. And of course, coming to the point of our discussion here, our journal Crossings, a journal of English Studies, which is the department's scholarly journal. So moving into the description of the journal, and I will then go into how Crossref has played a part here. So the journal's first volume came out in 2008, and it has been published. We are in this year, we'll be publishing the 14th volume. We had a slight hiatus for about 3 years when there was a change of hands. But since 2011, excuse me, so I'm sorry, 2014, we have been publishing this journal regularly every year. And I have to say that this is one of the journals in Bangladesh that's published regularly every year. We have an international advisory board to advise us, and the sections that we have inside the journal are the occasional paper, which is usually like a talk or a seminar given by a prominent speaker, and that is included as an occasional paper. Then we have, it's open, we give out an open call, and we have writings submitted to us from all over the world in the different categories of literature and cultural studies and applied linguistics and TESOL. And we also accept book reviews. The process that we follow is a double-blind peer review process to ensure that we get only the best published material. We are indexed by MLA International Bibliography, by WorldCat, by EBSCO and Google Scholar, and of course now Crossref. We have applied for Scopus indexing. Scopus is the, in case you're unaware, Scopus is a indexing platform, and it's very big in the South Asian region. And we have been trying to get indexed by them, but they're a tough nut to crack. So we've applied twice already, and the feedback that we've gotten from them is that we are not cited enough all over, from different places, and therefore that's the only drawback we have. Otherwise, they've agreed that it is a world-class journal. So we are going to be applying to Scopus again this year, and fingers crossed, let's see what happens. So where does the GEM membership come in? We were very excited when we applied to Crossref and found that there is this membership that allows us as a lower economic country. We are able to access this membership because of that, and it has helped us in the sense that we were looking for how to get the DOIs, and apparently that is one of the ways in which we would be able to get wider reach amongst the scholarly community. So GEM membership allowed us to get on board here, and it was very helpful because Crossings does not charge anything. There's no APC that we collect from the authors. We disseminate the journal for free online. We print copies, and these are distributed for free or at a discount. We do not have any regular subscribers that would help us generate some revenue. Publishing costs are very high now, so we try to keep the number of print copies low and rely more on the online platform. So we're hoping that through this membership we will be able to reach, have a wider reach and increase perhaps the number of citations from our journal, so that we can ultimately get into indexed publications like Scopus. Crossref has allowed us to get this DOIs, but we are very new to this digital platform on the one hand, and also to Crossref. So it's a little early to say anything about how impactful it has been, because it's been just about 2 months, I think, since we joined Crossref. So I really appreciate that you've called us here to share our experiences for that. How do we improve access to the global scholarly record? I've been asked to also include this in my speech. So there's this chicken and egg problem. So you don't have citations, you don't get indexed, you don't have citations. So it's a very complicated problem for us here when we're trying to get our knowledge across to different communities. But being able to go online and be a part of all these indexed websites and Crossref now. I hope that it will now be possible for us to gain a wider reach and to scholarly resources. We hope to be able to collaborate with like-minded organizations and share our knowledge. And this platform, of course, is one of those places where we are able to share our knowledge about this. And maybe there will be some funding opportunities or special programs that will help us to improve the quality of journal further. So some of the recommendations from the experiences that we have had is, of course, to be a part of the OJS, the Open Journal System, which we have migrated to recently again. So this is a lot of new things going on at Crossings right now, and I think that information sharing is very important. So being on a platform like this, learning about how to get the word out, share our information, and learn from each other's mistakes or from experience, that would be very helpful. Of course, the open access model, that is important because we believe at Crossings that knowledge is not meant to be curated, but should be shared openly with everyone. So, and hence we don't charge an APC. And of course, gathering knowledge and awareness through Crossref, organizations like Crossref, ORCID, DataCite that we have here today, and other sites as well. And of course, maybe if it was possible to get some mentorship from dedicated experts to help, journals like Crossings to improve on their standards and the quality and become a part of the larger research community. So what's next for us? We are in the process of applying to DOAJ, the online open access journal database. And we are going to be, as I mentioned earlier, that we will be reapplying to Scopus. So hopefully third time's the charm. So wish us luck. The website address is here if you care to take a look. I'll put it in the chat box as well. And we welcome submissions of articles if you are interested to be a part of our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arifa. We are very happy to hear the benefits of the GEM program through your experience. I hope that other countries, so we have like 59 eligible GEM program countries that can join us as well. So we can reach the infrastructure and metadata in open scholarly world. All right, next speaker, Muhammad Mustafa. He joined DataCite as a regional engagement specialist for the Middle East and Asia. He works with the community to build more openness and trust in scholarly infrastructure and support emerging communities' transition towards open research and implementing its principles. So Muhammad is passionate about the open science and has been raising awareness among the research community. So he will introduce DataCite's Global Access Program and Global Access Funds.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robika, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. I think you should be able to see my screen now. So yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Muhammad Mustafa, the Regional Engagement Specialist for the Middle East and Asia at DataCite. And today in my topic, I'm going to cover DataCite introduction and walk you through the persistent identifier definition, and also shed some light on the strategic initiative and the project that we are currently working on at DataCite. Then I am going to highlight our global access program and explain in some details the comprehensive approach that DataCite is taking towards building or increasing the global adoption of persistent identifiers. So first of all, who we are. So we are a global community that shares a common interest. Our goal is to ensure that research outputs and the resources are openly available and well connected so it can be reused to advance knowledge across and between different disciplines and in different times like now and in the future as well. So as a community, we make research more effective with metadata that connects research, outputs, and resources, from samples and images to data sets and preprints as well. We also enable our members to create persistent identifier, and they can integrate it in their workflows and services so they can improve the research workflow, and this can end up as a final result in facilitating the discoverability and reuse of different research output and resources. So we, as an organization, we are committed to the principles of open scholarly infrastructure as well. So this means that we are a community government and driven and sustainable organization. We believe in open metadata and we use open source applications as well. We help in enabling the recognition of the wide range of research outputs and resources, and we help in building transparency and trust. We also collaborate with other organizations across the research ecosystem. Our community, this is a snapshot from our recent community. So we have more than 2,900 institutional repositories connecting with us, and they are using our open infrastructure. We also have more than 280 members, and they are coming from 51 countries. And so far, we have 49 million registered DataCite DOIs from 1,300 organizations around the globe. So this is a quick introduction to persistent identifier. So as you may know, so persistent identifier, or a PID, is a unique alphanumerical string that is usually referring to a digital resource. That digital resource, that web page will have a metadata representation about that resource. And as we all know, persistent identifier can be assigned for object, and this is the case for DOIs that can be used for research outputs and the resources, or it can be assigned for researchers and people like ORCID IDs, and it can be also assigned for research organization like ROR IDs. So DOIs for research outputs are really valuable and important because different research outputs should be registered with DOIs. And when we talk about the research output, as we all know, we have a wide range of outputs. It can be a journal article, the final output of the long research journey process, or it can be also the data set that the researchers are gathering and collecting during the research process, or it can be dissertation, it can be protocol that the researcher is using while conducting the research, or it can be the software code that the researcher has created during his research journey or her research journey. So the value of using DOIs for research output, that they really enhance the discoverability, they improve the accessibility, and they enhance the ability to get more citation, and for that content, that research output to be more reusable also. At DataCite, our metadata schema supports a wide range of research outputs and resource types as well, as you can see. So we have audiovisual, books, book chapter, data paper, data sets, dissertation, event, images as well, text. So we have a wide range of resource types that we can support. And also within our schema, we have 6 mandatory fields, and we have also recommended and optional field. But overall, we encourage our member to provide rich metadata, as much as metadata information as they can, because we really believe that providing more metadata can really help and improve the discoverability, the visibility of the resources that you are registering. So in terms of DataCite strategic initiatives and the project, so in line with our mission and vision, we are taking an active part and leading and participating in various community initiatives. So for example, in terms of data metrics, we are working with the community to increase the adoption and the implementation of responsible data metrics. So we are working with the metadata count initiative. In terms of identifier registry, we are supporting community-led registration of identifier such as ROR or Research Organization Registry. And we also contribute to the development and the discoverability of repository initiative such as Re3 Data Initiative with a collaboration, direct collaboration and financial support as well. One of our important initiatives is our Global Access Program, and I'm going to share more details because this is the primary goal of our talk today. So DataCite launched the Global Access Program in February 2023 through a funding that we received from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Our primary aim is to increase the global adoption of persistent identifier. We also want to improve equity and access to our persistent identifier infrastructure in underrepresented regions. And in these regions, we mean Africa, the gap regions, Africa, Latin America, Middle East, and Asia. And in order to do that, we are taking a comprehensive approach that I am going to explain in details later. So this is the GAP team. So we have Gabriela Mijas, our community manager, and then we have 3 regional engagement specialists, myself covering Middle East and Asia, and I have my colleague Busoon covering Africa, and my colleague Arturo also covering Latin America. So before we dive into our global access program, what are the challenges for global adoption for persistent identifier? When we did an analysis for our membership, the majority of our members are currently coming from Europe and North America. There are also lack of underlying infrastructure in several countries, and also the awareness about the importance, the value of using a persistent identifier, and for sure, there are financial barriers as well. So as I mentioned initially, our comprehensive approach has 3 components. The first one is outreach, the second one is technical infrastructure, and the third one is funding. And I'm going to explain each one now. So regarding our first element, the global access program, our approach or outreach, we are analyzing now the needs and the education opportunities per region. We are also trying to develop a platform of collaboration with regional institutions within our global access program regions as well. We are also started to develop educational materials and best practices and policy guidelines. We are also exploring the benefits of launching DataCite ambassador program, so we can have build that network of volunteers who can help us also to reach to more regional community. We are also working on providing case studies on how different stakeholders use DataCite and DataCite infrastructure as well. So in terms of our outreach activity, so for example, in July, we had a fantastic collaboration with the Indian Institute of Science and the Open Science South Asia Network. And we did a good webinar about the importance of repositories and how they can support the open research practices. We also had webinars, our first webinar for the African community in June, and we did one also in Spanish in June as well. And this is a snapshot from our upcoming outreach activities. Actually, next week, the DataCite is hosting our first ever Arabic webinar to the Middle East and the Arab community. So please, if you are an Arabic speaker, please join us through the registration link here. And also we are planning for more GAP webinars in the future, like one in Turkish, another one in French. And we are attending several conferences, as you can see, Ubuntu Connect in Africa, and Open Science workshop in China, and a conference in South Africa. And we also attending and presenting during the ATD conference in India this year. And I will be participating and presenting in the second research management conference in Malaysia as well. So we are taking that comprehensive approach in the outreach activities as well. In terms of infrastructure, our second element in our global access program. So we are currently analyzing the infrastructure landscape and the use of different platform per region. We are currently working on these reports, and these reports will be shared publicly with the community once we finish and finalize them. We are also collaborating with the repository platform and service providers on providing integration for certain regions where we see this is, for example, this specific providers is being used on a wide basis on that community. We are also aiming to set up user groups to benefit from each other so they can exchange expertise and knowledge as well, such as reuse a code for integration. So this is a snapshot from our analysis and infrastructure reports that we are currently working on. So we are using different data sources as well. So we are using RUAR, we are also using OpenDuar and QUAR as data sources. And the graphs, the charts that you can see here is representing the Asian infrastructure. And this is also different data resources. For Asia, we are using RE3 data and BKB OGS installation data as well through the Beacon project. So as I said, we are still finalizing these reports, and it will be shared with the broader community once we finalize them. Our second approach is the global access. The third element in our global access program is our global access fund. So DataCite is also providing funding to help and make organizations worldwide make their research output and resources discoverable. We are providing this financial support for 3 primary categories, and I will explain the scope in details later. Also, our Global Access Fund, GAF, is part of DataCite Global Access Program, and is made possible through the grant that we received from a Chan Zuckerberg initiative. So for our Global Access Fund, we have 3 main categories. The first one is outreach and engagement activities to support increasing the awareness and the adoption of global and local solution to community initiative. And this category is the fund is up to 10,000 euros. So if you want to create or launch capacity building about DataCite infrastructure, about DOIs and metadata, about DataCite API integration, if you want to host an online event or webinar or workshop or virtual communication for your regional community, you can apply for this. If you want to create outreach resource development in your own language, such as videos or social media content or podcasts or any different type of tutorials, you can apply to this fund under this category. The second category that we have under our Global Access Fund is for open infrastructure development and integration. And our aim is to enable and increase the adoption of DataCite infrastructure and our related services as well. And the fund here is up to 20,000 euros. And within that, we can provide fund to create a repository or publishing or other development. We can also help you. You can use this fund to connect and make the DataCite API integration, or you can develop new tools and system or new dashboard and build on the existing system and existing infrastructure that you currently have. So if you have that, or you want to create and initiate your initial repository from the beginning, you can apply for this fund as well. The third element within our global access program is demonstrators. So we are looking here on a national level. So we are seeking to identify and incubate 3 demonstrators across the region, 1 for the Middle East and Asia, 1 for Africa, and 1 for Latin America as well. So they can leverage and create the implementation of open international infrastructure services that can benefit their local community, and they can also use the fund to establish open local infrastructure and communities, or facilitate the indigenous knowledge sharing as well by building a bid infrastructure that supports enabling recognition for that type of knowledge. And this fund is up to 50,000 euros as well. So who can apply for our Global Access Fund? So representative from non-profit stakeholders within the research ecosystem, such as research institution, national research education network, governmental bodies, service providers in GAP regions, Africa, Latin America, Middle East, and Asia can apply. And also applications are open to DataCite existing members and non-member organizations as well. And both new and well-established organizations can apply. In terms of the date, so the call for proposal launch will be open by 1st of September, and the application due date is 15th of October. Then we have GAF committee will start going through the application and checking them, and we expect the award decision to be issued by 15th of December this year. And the duration for the project from Jan 1st, 2024 to the 31st of December, 2024. And you have our Global Access Fund URL link here if you want to know more details, or feel free to contact me directly. So I would like to invite you to attend our Global Access Fund webinar that we are hosting on 13th of September. This is open for everyone, and we are going also to respond to the community inquiries and the questions for sure. So our Global Access Fund, our Global Access Program, within that we are going to work with local partners and different stakeholders on training on topics such as metadata management, data citation, data repository as well. And our aim is to help them to streamline the research data life cycle. Our end goal and ultimate goal for our Global Access Program, as I explained, our comprehensive approach is that we want a DataCite to create a more equitable and inclusive research ecosystem where all researchers from different communities and regions have the tools and the resources that they really need to conduct and share their work. So yeah, so this is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for now, feel free to post it in the Q&A, and I'm going to respond at the end of this webinar. Or if you have any question, feel free to reach out to us, info@datacite.org. If you have a question, you can also visit our bidforum.org, and you can check our website and our support documentation. And please feel free to follow us on our social media platforms as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Muhammad Mustafa. It's a very nice program, Global Access Fund and Global Access Program from DataCite. So if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to ask on our Q&A tools. All right, next speaker, Estelle Cheng and Lombe Tembo. Estelle Cheng support and engage with ORCID direct members, publishers, and services and vendors. Estelle works collaboratively with communities to promote adoptions of ORCID, to establish community of practice, and to drive more platform or products supporting ORCID. She has an infectious enthusiasm for scholarly communications. And talking about Lombe Tembo is responsible for improving equity of participation in ORCID in currently underrepresented area, especially for the Global South. She is also responsible for growing memberships and adoption in currently underrepresented regions while ensuring member satisfaction and value. She has an MBA in economics and MA in development studies. So yeah, they will introduce ORCID and talk about ORCID's global participation programs.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm Estelle. Today, I'm going to co-present with my colleague, Lombe. So I will start first. Next slide, please. So this is the outline of our talk today. So I will start. I'm going to give a general introduction about ORCID and why, and then Lombe will go into detail to introduce ORCID's Global Participation Program. And we are happy to take your discussion and feedback in the end of your presentation. And please use the use the QA function in the chat if you have any questions. And next slide, please. So yeah, as you may know now, there are different persistent identifiers. ORCID is one of it. And here I want to start from a high-level code, but I think it's very accurately and nicely captured about PIDs. So PIDs alone do not provide much value. The value comes through embedding PIDs in other systems, connecting to them, visualizing connections, and leverage those relationships. So I think that's the importance, and that's why we are working together today now. And to begin with, there are a few ORCID facts. So ORCID's mission is to enable transparent and trustworthy connections among researchers, their contributions, and their affiliations by providing a unique persistent identifier for individuals to use in different research workflow when they in different parts of the research, scholarship, or innovation activities. So ORCID is an independent, non-for-profit, membership-supported organization open to participation by all. We are registered in the US. It's launched in 2012, and we are guided by our values and funding principles. And then we are committed to make fair open data available by our public API services and our annual public data file. So ORCID's values are majorly three parts: open, inclusive, and trusted. Next slide, please. So ORCID stands for Open Researcher and Contributor Identifier. So we provide three main services. The first is the ORCID ID. So for researchers, it's a free, unique PIDs that researchers can register to use. And second, for organizations, we provide a set of application programming interfaces, or what's so-called APIs for organizations. So researchers can share their IDs with organizations during any research workflows, and organizations can use those APIs to exchange interoperable research information. And the third, maybe you all know, it's an ORCID record, or sometimes called the ORCID profile. So it's a place to store and share those different connections between IDs, their research activities, and affiliations. Next slide, please. So in short, I want to use this diagram to depict a bit more. So ORCID associates researchers with institutions and research outputs through different links to other PIDs. So ORCID itself is the PID for researchers. So we work with PIDs for organizations like Grower. We work with PIDs for research outputs such as DataCite, Crossref, and among other DOI registration agency, and also PIDs for funding grants like Crossref Grant ID. Next slide, please. And so until now, over the decade, so ORCID is increasingly a hub for an immense amount of profile activity and data. So as shared, we work with different systems or in different workflow. So we work with publisher systems, institutional system, funder systems, or also discovery and profile systems. And here are just some of the highlight stats in 2012 I want to share with you. So as you can see here, so last year, so ORCID records are viewed more than 100 times per minute. And ORCID data is read by different systems more than 1 million times per month. So this is just some numbers that I want to share with you. Now ORCID is really an information hub for different stakeholders in the research ecosystem. And next slide, please. So as you can tell now, the success of ORCID, or rather the ORCID community, actually rely on both individuals and organizations' commitment. So both of them play a role. So for individuals, they register for ORCID ID, and researchers connect it with any system that they encounter during their research life. And for organizations, they integrate ORCID by our APIs into their systems. In different research workflow to help themselves and to help their researchers to maximize the benefits of ORCID. And next slide, please. So as a community-driven organization, so we work with the community. We want to make ORCID more useful and relevant. And through the years, we identify some challenges or some problems. So there are majorly three categories. The first is lower awareness of ORCID among organizations and or for researchers in certain countries, in certain sectors, in certain communities. And we observe there are lower adoptions of ORCID in some underrepresented countries, namely Global South and countries apart from Western Europe or North Americas. And we realized there are fewer tools and data sources supported ORCID, or rather integrate with ORCID. That's why we work with the community. We want to improve equity of access to interconnect research infrastructure. We also want to improve the visibility of researchers and reduce their burden to both researchers and institutions, so that both of them can use ORCID with less efforts. And next slide, please. So that's why for ORCID to respond in response to the above challenges, we start this global participation program. And I'm handing over to my colleague Longbei to introduce this in more detail. Longbei, your turn.
Thanks, Estelle. So I'm just going to talk a bit about the Global Participation Program. So just like Estelle said, we are trying to increase the global participation as one of the 4 themes of the strategic plan that we have towards 2025. And as you can see, there are 3 other themes, including increasing value to members, upholding trust and integrity, as well as increasing value to researchers. So this particular theme is one of the strategic priorities, and we're just trying to work to increase uptake of ORCID. So we continue to see growing adoption around the world, like Estelle mentioned earlier, with users in 250 countries and member organizations in 57 countries. But as you can tell from the map here, many of these gray areas are in Africa and also parts of Asia and parts of Latin America as well. And so what we're trying to do is to increase the uptake of ORCID in those specific areas, which is why we came up with the Global Participation Program. So research has shown that ORCID adoption is currently higher in countries that have higher income levels. And this was based on an analysis of ORCID adoption by established authors in 59 countries. And while this may be indicative, this data points to the disadvantages that researchers in the Global South face in getting equitable visibility and also recognition for their work. So the Global Participation Program is a 2-pronged approach to achieving this goal. And the first part of this is the Membership Equity Program, and the second one is the Global Participation Fund. So a bit about the Membership Equity Program is that this is really used when organizations are trying to come up with a consortium. And so there's a discounted membership fee structure for consortium members with an 80% discount if the organizations are based in a low-income country, and a 50% discount if it's organizations that are coming from a lower middle-income country. And this is based on the definitions by the World Bank income classifications, and this is revised on a yearly basis as the announcements are made in July of every year. Also, for the Membership Equity Program, there's a lower threshold of 3 members for the initial year, as opposed to 5 members, which would ordinarily be the number that would be needed for a consortium. This aspect of the Global Participation Program is fully funded by ORCID. On the other hand, we have the Global Participation Fund, which has 2 grant programs as part of it. So the first one is the Community Development and Outreach programs, and these are really to fund local partners who can then go ahead to build ORCID communities of practice in the Global South. And then we also have the technical integration grants, and these ones are meant to fund the development of systems that are likely to drive participation in the Global South. And the GPF is really made possible by the generosity of ORCID's founding lenders, but the admin costs are funded by ORCID. So for this year, we have a funding cycle that is going to be opening in October, so around the 3rd of October. I'd encourage anyone interested to sign up for the ORCID newsletter just to get an update as to when exactly this is going to open, and it's going to run for a month. So what are the GPF objectives and what is the structure? So the focus and goals of the fund align with ORCID's strategic objective to increase global participation. But we also need to know who the focus communities are. And basically, these are organizations that are engaged in research and scholarship in low and lower middle income countries, particularly in the global south. And this is where ORCID participation to date has been very low. And then in terms of the goals, we're trying to remedy ORCID participation gaps in the focus community area by providing grants that would be able to develop ORCID communities of practice in these specific focus communities, and also to build understanding and use of ORCID in local contexts. And lastly, we're trying to create and enhance technical integrations that would then support these burgeoning communities. And so these grants, they're two very distinct grants. And what we are trying to do is with the community development and outreach grants, we're trying to build communities that would support local partners to then go ahead and build ORCID communities of practice, and also to support communities that are already existing. For the technical integration grants, what we're trying to do is to build integrations. And this is really building or updating ORCID integrations in open source systems, which would then in the long run support and encourage ORCID participation by those in the focus communities. It's also to build utilities. And this is really about creating or improving open source components, libraries, or resources that would enable or facilitate ORCID participation for those in the focus communities. And lastly, this is for support use. So to support the creation of technical documentation, outreach, and support for the resources that would be created through this grant program. So in 2022, we awarded our first tranche of the GPF grants. And one of those was a technical integration grant, and the other four were community development and outreach grants. And these are the grantees that we have. We had EcoConnect from Nigeria, CLISC from Kenya, Africa Archive, and the Virtual University of Cote d'Ivoire. And then the technical integration grant was from the Technical University of Hamburg. Well, they're working with For Science. I am hoping that in the next session, we'll be able to share a bit of highlights and milestones that the first grantees have, but we're currently still in the growing and learning phase. We also awarded our second tranche of GPF grants earlier this year. And these are our grantees. And I'm happy that the Public Knowledge Project, which is working with Crossref, is also one of our grantees. We also have ITOCA, which is based in South Africa, and the University of Sri Jayewardenepura. I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And also the InflibNet Center, which is based in India. So it's really exciting to be able to be working with grantees from different parts of the world. Also, I needed to add that in terms of the funding, we have 2 cycles every year, and the granting is, the funding is between $5,000 and $20,000 for projects that would go on to run for a year. And yeah, I think if there are any other questions, we can discuss them, and they can be posted in the Q&A. And yes, I'm looking forward to hearing any of your questions. I have included some resources here. The links will be available as the slides will be shared. And yes, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lombe and Estelle, for the great presentation. Thanks for all the speakers. So let's jump to our Q&A sessions. So we know that some of us already answered the questions on the chat, but let's see to the Q&A tools. There is a question from Namugeni. Can an organization apply for all the 3 funding options? I'm sure is this a question for DataCite, I think?
Yeah, I think it came during my presentation, Robika. Yeah, so for that question, I would say yes. So your organization can apply for the 3 different elements that we are covering under our Global Access Fund. You can apply for outreach or infrastructure or the demonstrator on a national level as well. The call for proposals again will be open by 1st of September.
Okay, thank you. And for the next question, from Paul, how could early career researchers have access to the research grants in West Africa? Anyone to answer the questions?
I think maybe there is like a misunderstanding in the question, because we don't like give grant for research, but what we are talking about here and what you are hearing here, Paul, is how you can, as a researcher or as a research organization, how you can make your work and your research outputs discoverable, visible to the global community by using DOIs, by creating your ORCID ID as well. So this is the primary goal for this conversation.
Okay.
I think to add on what Mustafa said, I think a direct answer to this will be to advise Paul to look into funder registry of some of the organizations that do fund research organizations. And Crossref does have a list of these funders, and they can get the list. Thank you.
Thank you, Alphonse. And for the next one, so we want to know the difference between ORCID ID personal and the organization ORCID ID, if available.
I can take that. And sorry, I disabled my camera because it will take like 1 minute to open it again. So ORCID doesn't issue IDs for organizations. So ORCID ID are only available for researchers or people who contribute to research. So ORCID ID is only for people in short. For organizational IDs, now we work with ROAR. I think it's Research Organization Registry. Forgive me if I forgive the full name. But yeah, so in short, ORCID doesn't provide IDs for organizations, but we work with those that register IDs for organizations. I hope this helps.
Thank you so much, Estelle. And next, maybe Obanda want to share the questions during the registration and how to answer for that questions.
Great. Yeah, the first question was, how can aspiring journals such as Crossings get enough citations to be indexed by Scopus and thereby attract more citation-worthy papers and acquire digital footprints and subscriptions?
I'm just going to comment on that a little bit. That question was actually sent in by our chief editor. And this is a problem I talked about during my presentation about the chicken and egg problem, where we are unable to get indexed by Scopus because we don't have enough citations, and we can't get enough citations if we're not indexed by Scopus. So that's the dilemma we are in now. So any advice from any of you would be very helpful. Thank you.
I can try take that, but I'll answer it on the Crossref perspective rather than on the Scopus perspective. One is because we really don't know the framework or the structure that is employed by Scopus in their reference ranking criteria and citations. So, but on the Crossref side, we do have cited by service, and much of it is promotion of citations within PIDs that have been registered with Crossref and DataCite. And on this, we do encourage our members to do reference linking. And it is through reference linking that we're also going to assist our algorithm to pick on citations that have been cited of our content. And it is our content that, in most cases, we believe will be picked by Scopus and other institutions in ranking the citations within your journal. So,
Thank you.
So I think at best, number one is to encourage you to do reference linking for your citations that are for all the content that you publish within all the journals of ULAB. And number two, what is it? Let me look for the best word is sign up for the Cited by service that we do offer. And these two will be the best criteria that can assist your journal put up, open this, the reference linking algorithms that are open there, including Scopus. I think that's the best answer I can give. Thank you.
Thank you, that helps. Thank you.
All right.
Great. The question was how to extract statistics and reports on registered members and registered content. And this can be achieved using our participation reports, which I'm going to share in this chat, link to it. This was a question from a participant, and we're also going to share these Q&As with the recording. So if they're not present in this meeting, then they're going to see it. Yeah, so one way you can extract statistics and reports on registered members and registered content is through our participation reports. Great.
All right. Thank you so much, Obanda and Evans. And let's do have a poll. So we have a poll. Want to know about how the sessions is will be benefit for you and feedback from you. So Obanda will share the polls.
Great. I think I'm losing the window for the polls. Can you see the polls on your end? Let me see.
Obanda, just a minute, just before you, there's something also, in addition to the prep reports and the last question you've answered, we do have Crossref lab reports. I've shared the link on the chat. Any person can go in and search for any member that we have, and they're going to get a list, a nice outline of all the participation report of each section of the metadata that is submitted by the member. For example, they're going to get the percentage of abstracts they've registered, percentage of references, full text similarity check URLs, and it is much better and has a better view. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. So first question, Better Together webinar feedback. Do you think the webinar met your expectations? So we have scales 1 to 10 from extremely likely or not likely. So your valuable feedback, it matters for us to the next webinar so we can improve. Okay, we are still waiting for others to join the pool.
Yeah, let's aim for 50% of us. Yeah.
All right, next questions. What is the next topic you want to hear from us? All right. Thank you so much. We can end the poll and share results. Right, and
Yeah, great. We have there is use of AI in linguistic pedagogy, artificial intelligence implementation in scholarly communication, collaboration with ROR, the success stories from the grants, teaching English language, customer journey, and best practices in increasing scholarly communication to register with ORCID. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in the polls.
thank you so much. Next, I'd like to remind again our next coming up webinar. So the next one, the nearest in September 29th, working with multiple PITs led by DataCite, and the final one, November 1st, PITs and Open Science led by ORCID. Join our next Better Together webinar. And the last one, we are thrilled to announce the call for abstract or flash talks and poster for our upcoming annual meeting in 2023, happening on October 31st. This year, themes center around 4 topics that are pivotal for advancing scholarly communication and research. The first one, our better metadata story. So for members, services providers, and others who change their process to capture or create more and better quality metadata. And the second one, preserving the integrity of the scholarly record together for individual of collaborative initiative that succeeded in systematic amendment of scholarly metadata. The third topic, globally connected and inclusive research nexus. So for stories about enriching influence of global diverse metadata contributions to our global network. And the fourth, acting on the principle of open scholarly infrastructure. So for organizations who adopted or are considering adoption policy, so on key changes or actions they have taken towards improving their policy performance. So you may submit for a flash talk, poster, or both. So submission are due by September 25. We will have selection completed by October 6th. So you can go to our website, bit.ly/crossref 2023/CFA for more information. All right, thank you so much for the great questions. We hope you all find today's session interesting and insightful. And thank you so much also to ORCID, DataCite, and all the speakers for making this event. Thanks again for attending, and see you to the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
so much for having us.